Hi all, nice to meet you. My name is John. I'm one of the solutions consultants here at DotDigital in the Americas. Today I'll be kind of leading a demo of how our marketing automation system might be able to help y'all, with some quick and easy wins in terms of getting B2B set up and leveraging automations, using segmentation, and a couple items that ideally will take some stuff off y'all's plate. But super excited to talk B2B today.
Amazing. And then Rob?
Hi, I'm Rob. I'm the managing partner of NETFORMIC. We're a global systems integrator and consultancy specifically to the B2B and D2C crowd. I have a few years of experience in the marketing automation space as well as e-commerce and complex product management. And I'm really pleased to be here because I am the color commentary, former quarterback. I'll give you the play-by-play today from the booth.
Rob, I'm excited to have you here today. John and Rob are gonna dive. So John's gonna dive into like automation, maybe on the DotDigital platform. But not everyone here is a DotDigital customer, so we're gonna give you some ideas and tips if you're not a DotDigital customer, as well as if you are and interested in the platform. Automation's great for B2B, and John's gonna tell you why. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so John can have the opportunity to if he needs, and take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Susie. I will share my screen and hopefully you guys are seeing a business to business breakdown. Here at DotDigital, we like to do a little bit of research sometimes just to get an understanding of the landscape, how people are using our system. And one thing that's really stood out to us, especially from a B2B perspective, is just the lack of personalization and generally some items that are, a struggle for B2B from a marketing perspective compared to B2C. I feel like B2C is hyper maximalized in terms of everything being automated, personalized, and instantaneous. B2B, because of the complex customer journeys, the historical, digital transformation that's ongoing, and just struggles that people are having to get first form data collection and that information you need to personalize is basically meant batch and blast has been king for quite some time. And today we kind of want to talk about how you guys can take the first step in terms of getting the data and information from your different sources, your websites, so that personalization, automation can be a pretty easy next step, as well as some ideas on how you might be able to achieve that. Alrighty.
Fabulous. Thank you, John. All right. So if you want to get into the rest of it, we'll go and then we'll do a quick fireside chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Cool. And Rob, feel free to chime on in if you got any comments or thoughts. I have a ton of tabs that I'll be hopping through, hopefully to make things faster. But the ideal state that we want you guys to get to is similar to the single customer view that you see here for this contact, Stephen. Having information siloed in a ton of different spots, whether it's your ERP, your CRM, commerce platform, your website, having it in all those different locations makes marketing's job a little bit difficult, especially when you're trying to find the exact way a individual in the long B2B process is being plugged in, and how you can personalize or best respond to where they are in that cycle. And being able to take all that information and put it into one location is really the best first step that you can take. Doesn't need to all be there, but ideally your core systems, whether it's the orders, the website information, being able to patch those in will give you the best base to then understand who you need to market to and when. As you can kind of see here, DotDigital does a really good job of pulling in the historical sales information, the engagement details, and that's all based off of the information that we'd pull in from a lot of the core integrations that we have either out of the box. So you can pull in those ERPs, those CRMs, those commerce platforms, website details, and the system will stitch it together to give you the idea of, how often does this person buy? When is their next predicted order? Are they in a purchasing cycle right now? Are they a hot or cool lead? And that's the heavy lifting that we want to get the system to do for you guys, as well as give you the option to have a platform to dig in deeper and understand, what are we sending out across our different channels? what orders have they placed? Had they visited our website? And what items of interest are, necessary for them to kind of take that next step to move to the next part of your phase, and for you all as marketers to be able to send the right message at the right time.
Mm-hmm. So let me just jump in here, right? For some B2B companies that we work with, this would look like an overwhelming amount of information to be able to collect, and they may feel far away from it. The thing that I'm going to keep saying is, it's step by step, right? So the transformation starts with understanding where you want to go. And part of my job is often showing people where the benefit is of getting there, right? This is achievable, right? It looks overwhelming, but it starts with good decisions as you're beginning to think through how you're going to interact with your customers and what data you collect with customers. So mapping that out early is important.
100%, Rob. And yeah, you can kind of dip your toe into it. There's a ton of different information you can capture. I kind of bucket into 3 different types. There's the standard data fields, which could be the individual's first name, last name, the core information that you don't need a timeline view on, and being able to add the associated sales rep, the information that you don't even have to collect from your customer, but you guys have on file to then use to personalize messages. It's the small things like that. And then you can start layering in, events that they've attended or plan to attend in the future, or maybe details from their last order. All of that can then be used to kind of customize and ensure that those campaigns going out are, personalized to the individual. But you can also pick up marketing preferences from them, either when they fill out forms or let you know who they are, figure out the best time to contact them, the channels that they're most interested in, or heck, maybe the cadence. That way you guys are sending timely, messages to them, but you're also not probably overwhelming them with a ton of batch blast efforts or things that are probably not a good fit. And of course, these can be completely customized to whatever data you guys need to store. But if you guys do get to that point of having historical information, insight data is what we call it here, but like order details over time, the ability to have access to, what websites what web pages they're visiting on y'all's website, the products that they're interested in, creating those different channels and getting a complete robust view really does help you guys understand who they are and when to market to them.
So this is an area, I'm sorry, let me just interrupt. John, this is an area that I think DotDigital really shines, right? Collecting historical data is often a lot easier than trying to put together new data. And while we may not as industrial manufacturing distribution B2B, right, necessarily have all the information, what we can collect is often historical information. And then using it, you can begin to actually make inferences and understand your customer better. And that's part of the way you can help get your organization to where you are a high performing marketer.
100%. You're not just sending out a batch and blast to all 10,000 customers. You're understanding historically who they are. What would they likely be to do based on that behavior, or what products or areas of services are interested for them? 100% agree with that point, Rob. And you also can kind of take things to the next level by gathering information from your website based on their web behavior using JavaScript or cookies to track. But you can also use DotDigital's form builder or post some forms using any of our partners options to build out and gather those details. So if someone comes to y'all's website and you want to embed or generate this as a pop-up on there when they do a specific action, you can ensure that the person's coming in and giving you those details. So you can set it up so that it points to a specific data field and updates those details or those preferences. But it doesn't have to just be a what am I getting from their orders? What am I getting from their historical data? You can start taking those first steps of figuring out what the customer wants, and designing a custom form here to capture those details. So maybe you've got a project scope that you need to factor in here, and you want the project details, the estimated budget. the information that will help you guys better market to them. Sending out these as part of an email or hosting it on your website. They're just little ways that you guys can get even more details in addition to that historical perspective and really personalize things going out the door.
Yeah, it's a great tool for marketers because you can actually use it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of being able to drag and drop and edit things on the fly. It's not going to blow up like Microsoft Word. Like things start going in different locations. You can make a question literally with a drag of the box over here and say, hey, I want to drop down with these 5 options. It's really easy to do.
It is.
But ideally being as flexible so that you guys have all that information in one location will really set you guys up for the most success, because once it's in here, you've got the ability to start targeting as people populate these forums and you get updated responses. You'll have the ability to build out what we call segments. Other systems will have their own version of it, but you really just want to understand how are these people engaging with what you're sending out, and what do we have from that historical or current data perspective. So I've taken some of these building blocks and dragged them over and fine tune them. So right now it's trying to say, let's find everyone that has opened a specific campaign or any campaign they were sent in the last 30 days, let's say 5 times. You can kind of build out a query and be specific based on behaviors. And it could be, any of the options over here, but maybe you're trying to figure out if someone has a order that's expected to occur in the next 180 days based on that historical data, or maybe they've abandoned a cart because we have insight into the cart records based on that web behavior tracking. You can build out these really fine-tuned segments so that when you're sending out a message, it's not just to everyone, but let's find those hot leads. Let's find the people that have actively gone to our website and looked at a specific URL down there, or had a page title that happened to be a checkout. You can create really robust queries that take in everything from what your customers are telling you based on the campaigns, the data that you have on file, the AI analytics, and create a really, really good chance that what you're going to send is going to land and hit exactly to your customer. So having the data is the first step. The next win, of course, is being targeted and segmenting the right people at the right time.
Hey, I have a question. So sorry. Going back to the forms, you gave an example of like a project timeline, and when I think of forms, I'm not necessarily a B2B marketer, but when I think of forms, I think of asking someone their birthday, getting that first part, that zero-party data, especially in retail, so you can send like a gift card or something. But do you have any other examples for like the average B2B marketer? I know industry specific is important, but I figured maybe a couple of examples of what to put in a pop-up or a form would be important to share.
Yeah, Rob, I'll let you tee off on that if you want to go first. Otherwise,
no, I think the things that you want to try to figure out, right, is what stage in the buying situation are they, right? And you want to understand, are they an influencer or a purchaser, right? So things that you can put in are one, you want to find out about the company, right? Where are they in the stage? And you can ask questions such as, are you, and it's subtle, but this is how you do it, right? Like, are you looking for more information? Checkbox. Are you looking to make are you in a near term purchase cycle? Are you, would you like comparison data amongst products? Now, these are questions, right? But they begin to help you narrow down, okay, are they in the info gathering phase? Have they gathered info and they're now, beginning to think who they're going to place an order with? The major difference is, of course, in many B2B arenas, right? The purchase dollars are much higher. They're much fewer. Now, that's not all of them, right? But oftentimes, we wind up setting up POs and recurring purchase contracts. So finding out where they are in the purchasing cycle is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's good to know. Helpful for me. And hopefully helpful for someone else on here.
Although it doesn't hurt to send them a birthday card. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, why not?
Make yourself stand out, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, look, a kind touch to a customer is never overlooked,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, you know, in a lot of industries that we serve, right? These are not always thought about, but they're becoming thought about. They're becoming things that help you stand out, right? Service really is a major difference that you can put to work in your business because, right, when we're talking about in B2B where there may only be pennies difference between prices, but that adds up to a lot of money.
Mhm.
Service and excellence and doing those things really does help you make a difference, and the system helps you do it much more automatically.
Yeah.
So,
Fabulous. Sorry for interrupting your segmentations presentation. Feel free
no,
to
I'll get to
continue. Yeah.
yeah. And the only other things that I'd add, you can also add in supporting documents, so like RFPs, technical
Mm,
requirements, functional diagrams, anything that can kind of help the quote or discussion process are also things that I commonly see from the forms that people have. But yeah, jumping back into segmentation, basically you can choose whatever, once you have the information in the system, you can then use this to be as targeted as you want. The system will, of course, tell you how many contacts that you have. You can also drill down and see some detailed analytics on that information. But it's just making sure that you're sending to the right people at the right time and that you understand who you're working with. But it's kind of the foundation to then set us up for those automations. And it doesn't have to just be the segments itself. You can use it to drive custom contact scoring. So if you create a segment that happens to be the ideal customer that you guys want, you can come in and give suitability engagement scores so that you're
mhm.
calculating that on the fly and figuring out who's a hot lead. Or also our AI features. Everyone's got to have an AI feature for those RFM personas as people come into the system, being able to kind of bucket them in. Is this person active? Are they high potential? Are they loyal or are they a champion? How consistently can we kind of expect to work with them? How are we trending with our customers over time? That visible information just gives you guys a quick and easy way to say, hey, given what we're looking at and who we want to market to across contact type, purchase phase, and their opportunity that they're in right now, let's try and find everyone that has a high purchase intent but's inactive, or someone that has an abandoned cart that is still showing those intent behaviors that we're looking for. And the system
Yeah.
will basically give you an easy way to dip your toe into it and then maybe add in and segment on top of going forward.
Yeah,
So
this is really useful for B2B, right? We may not have always thought about how we do that. So the ability for it to begin to show where intent is found and how these things happen really will help us leap ahead, right? So while B2B isn't at the level, right, necessarily that B2C is, we have an opportunity to skip a step, I like to say, right? So we can jump ahead and take advantage of tools and move quickly into differentiating ourselves against our competitors.
absolutely. And that's the thing is, as you're kind of thinking through those buckets and behaviors for the segments that you're doing, while B2B is not fully there at B2C's level right now in terms of everything being automated and crazy over the top, people are still trained in those same behaviors. Like if I'm going to
Hmm.
shop for something online, I'm going to kind of do the same action of I'm going to add something to my cart and mull it over until things are ready to go, or I'm just going to be visiting the website and frequently checking that same URL of, is this really what I want to look at across those different pages? So you can still use those trends and insights, but then customize and kind of tweak them based on the behavior that is actually more B2B specific. So hopping from segmentation and talking about data, next kind of fun area would be the automations, which you don't have to blow it out of the water with the first one. I've got a sample welcome program here that's using one of our templates in the system. You can start really, really small to where it's basically pulling in people from that segment that we built, sending them a welcome email, and then waiting a couple days to then send another. But you can kind of build off of this as a starting point, getting that initial 80% of people covered in these core workflows. Just an easy way to dip your toe in the water. You're not having to send out a batch blast every day, but kind of just get a feel for what's going on, engage with your customers, and then start figuring out, based on our cycle and how we're set up right now, would be a better follow-up series, which I'll show a couple examples in a second. But Rob, I know we were talking about this yesterday in terms of dipping their toe in the water, getting things initially set up. Any automations or thoughts that you have?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things. One, right, you start simple. The other thing I have found almost every B2B client I have, right? Well, you all send blasts. Great. You've got to get information out widely, but you have an opportunity, right, to actually convert people. And to do that, right, I think we need to not be afraid of the behavior that people expect, which is you're going to send a lot of emails early, and then you can taper it off, or the, as I call it, the decay curve of communication, right? You start heavily early because if they're a buyer, you want to reach them and you want to convert them. And then over time, you want to create a nurture program, right? Some B2B sales are, very simple, very quick, like with a Granger. But on the other hand, a number of them are six-figure sales continuously, and it could take 6 months for someone to accumulate all the information and put it together. You want to communicate with people where they are and make sure you're providing what they need. And sometimes we don't quite do enough.
Yeah, and I think kind of going off of the signals that they're telling you guys through the system, are they opening on items? Are they clicking on things?
Yeah.
Will kind of help you automate and transform kind of those paths and journeys so that you have the default set up, but if they do certain things at certain points, they don't have to go through the 7-week wait window or the process that's curated. But
No, that is a great point, and that's not something we've incorporated very often. If you're just doing email blasts, you are not measuring, is that customer coming back? Is that customer clicking on things? Are they downloading PDFs? Are they doing these things? So the adjustment is all of that information is captured here, right? And you can adjust the frequency of how you're communicating based on how the customer wants to be interacted with. If they're high interaction, you be high interaction. If they're low, slow it down. And the ability to control that, is really important. And again, once you begin to map it out, it doesn't become terribly difficult, right? Even if you don't have all the information about a client, you can go through and capture that kind of information because it's based on their behavior, not as much about you setting up.
Yeah, 100%. So like modifying that simple one that we were just looking at, sending a welcome email, waiting a day, and then doing a logic check to just say, hey, have they done anything with that? Have they opened it? Have they clicked on it? There's a couple system options that, we always recommend as kind of the defaults, but using that to give them a completely different journey. Maybe we go ahead and fire it off again, or maybe we wait another day, see if they've done it again, and then maybe send an entirely different email or the same one. You can create different journeys based on behaviors and branch things out really quickly. With that in
Totally
mind,
agreed. Yeah.
there's a ton of different options. The bread and butter and the ones that we always make sure people have set up, which is slightly different from a B2B perspective, but still good to have. An abandoned cart series, if they can go to y'all's website and add items or look at items on your website. An abandoned browse process as well as a good suggestion. Being able to create a more complex journey that's coming in, looking at that behavior, and then trying to do a multi-channel approach. So sending an email if they have an abandoned cart, and then waiting, could be a day, could be 150 days, depending on how long y'all's wait cycle is. Could also be calculated based on some behaviors. And then checking again, is this item abandoned? And then getting specific on what kind of message you're sending. So this person abandoned, they have a huge cart. They're one of your bigger fish. maybe you send a email with the exact sales rep details of, hey, I'm Brian, send me a call right now. I'm available to answer any questions you have, or maybe just a gentle nudge via email. Of course, starting with email because that's a cheaper alternative before you start branching out with SMS, which has a higher click-through rate or open rate, so that maybe there's a quick, hey, just to check in, you seem really interested on this product. Maybe we want to actually, have a phone call this way or send us a text. You can be a bit more specific, bit more costly, but of course, you're creating a more custom journey based on their behaviors and starting with ways that are cost efficient up front, a little bit more costly at the end to try and maximize and generate as much revenue as you can.
Yeah, I think we have to remember in B2B that people's tolerance and the way that they think about interacting with a company has completely changed, right? It started with Amazon, but it is now pervasive throughout how we think. And people are not, I mean, I take so few phone calls personally, right? Because there's just so much overwhelming stuff out there. People are more willing to take a text message than a lot of my customers would think. If they've provided it and they've opted in and they've said, yes, I'll take them, and you send them an SMS with a link, you would be surprised at the uptake. It is better. Now, on the other hand, we have an advantage that B2C doesn't. While sure, it costs more, the numbers we're talking about, aren't a 9.95 teacup. There, there's real benefit in really being on top of how your customer wants to be communicated with and interceding before you fail to convert them off your website.
Absolutely. And abandoned cart's probably the easiest B2C
Yeah,
to B2B translation. Everyone's kind of
absolutely.
used to that flow, but you can set up different kinds of journeys. If you guys have a trade show or an event ongoing, you can create an event nurturing series so that everyone who signs up is added to a list. And then, maybe the first 250 people, because that's all the space will allow based on the fire marshal, they
Yeah.
go down a drip series set up so that every periodic moment someone receives a message, and if they sign up after 4 weeks, they don't receive that email. They only get the ones after that point until the event occurs. Or maybe there's a wait list so that you still engage with the people that tried to sign up but couldn't attend, and add them to a separate follow-up to ensure that they don't feel like they're being shunned. The system can get as complex as you guys kind of need it to, and ensure that the process and journey maps to the B2B sales cycle that you guys would have. And then maybe after the event, you have a follow-up series, depending on if they attended, checking in for a review to understand what you guys did well, or at least understand why did you register and not show up? We only have so many spots. Getting those answers and visibility, making sure that it's a nice, nurtured process that you guys are constantly checking in, but not overwhelming them during that series. And then,
Completely agreed. Yeah.
I love an event series as an event marketer, so that's great. B2B, B2C, everyone can do it. A good trade show.
oh yeah. And then lastly, a nurture program that I think Rob was alluding to earlier. Just an idea to have, depending on who you get as your list, maybe it's your first group of individuals, they've gone through the welcome series, and you want to try and get them to take the next step, whether that's a RFP review, a demo consultation, send out an email, and then maybe you try and gather some additional details. Maybe if they open that message, you then kick down to a process and start looking at their preferences to figure out what kind of message or list or group that they should be added to. Um, or if they don't open it, maybe you try and send it again, wait a couple days and see if they engage with that there. Or if they've never given you preferences, you can use that as a branch to try and get more details, to use one of those forums we just talked about to update their data and ensure that what you're doing going forward is, personable and entirely scoped out to be specific to that customer instead of a more generalized approach. So
Yeah, this
really
is a really nice interface, right? To be able to just drag and drop things and set up your workflows graphically makes it easy to explain and easy to do.
100%. And that's the thing is start small, build out the journey that makes the most sense for y'all. But vet nurtures, I guess a general nurturing campaign to get more details from your customers, abandoned cart, abandoned browse, some of the things that you know from B2C, but some things that you should definitely be making a bit more B2B specific.
Yeah.
And as we're thinking through those journeys, the content, of course, is going to be really important. Within the system itself, we have our campaign editor, but the personalization that we were talking about earlier in terms of what B2B seems to be lacking is really just using that data and information that you have on file so that those messages are a bit personal. And bear with me with the campaigns being a little bit more generalized because I don't want to use actual companies. Most of these are mock-ups or ones that we've gotten the A-OK with. But you can pull in those data fields and bits of information to both, customize what's being shown in the text and information that's available here, but it can also completely change what information is being shown. So if they have a specific sales rep assigned, I can include headshots of that sales rep. I'm a Panthers fan, so of course I'm going to use some old players' headshots. But as individuals come in and see these emails, they'll have entirely different experiences. I'm in our America's Demos account and it's saying America's, but if I pretend to be my buddy Steve in here, you'll notice that his message is customized to him. His sales reps details are pulled in and made available. And being able to take that information that you guys already have and is applied to these customers just makes it that much easier for them to get the help, to get the clarification, and ensure that you guys are fostering the welcoming and warm process that you guys want to have. You don't want a cold, annoying cadence where you're just sending emails and hoping something works. Let's get the right information in front of the right people at the right time.
I love those images, John. Thank you.
Yeah, who doesn't love Julius Peppers? Hall of Fame defensive end. Let's go. In addition to that, of course, you can bake in other types of content. It's the same easy editor that we were using for forms. So if you can drag something over from the building blocks on the left, you can quick and easily embed it wherever you need to be on the system. But you can also do products if you bring over your catalog and it's something that you have images or details on. If you don't want to include pricing, because it's a common case in B2B, you could just say, of course, give us a call, reach out and set up custom links there. But the variations are supported there as well, plus the option to pull in the last browse product details if you guys are using our web behavior tracking. So you can take those B2C elements and then make them a bit more B2B focused, just picking up and choosing what you like. A couple other ideas would be, transactional information, personalizing it just ever so slightly more to include information on what they've ordered, the summary of what is of interest to them, whether it's a quote or an RFP update. You can do the same thing to customize those details using Liquid or the data fields that you have on file. You can do the same thing for editorials. So if you're pushing out, a listicle or an update of what they should do or products they should check out based on their behaviors, you can very quickly build out, these kinds of items. You can do event nurturing so that if events upcoming, you want to include some details of what's happening, book their spot and sign up links, the whole 9 yards. It really can be as customized based on y'all's needs as you kind of want, whether it's an editorial, an event, anything that you're trying to get out there in addition to, the standard sales messages that you want. The system can be set up to basically customize it according to the data that you have on the customer.
Well, and by customization, right, you can do different things, right? You can follow up with web data or web photos and things you already have, right? Make it look like where you're going to send them. On the pricing, you're absolutely right. Some folks don't like to have their pricing out, but what you can do are simple things like, check out this sale. It's, it's secret. You have to click to your account to see the price. That increases clicks. You can use video on these to increase clicks, right? Or you can put an MSR, you can put the top end price on, if they want to buy pallets and pallets of shoes, and you can cross out that price and imply, right, it's much, much lower, and but they got to click to find out. The nice thing about that is, right, you're recording behavior, so you know they're interested, they're trying to look for that kind of product, they've been hovering around your site trying to decide which supplier they're going to buy from, and now you know they're interested.
100%. And the other thing is, we're always trying to look for signals to understand what's engaging, what's exciting as the different
Yes.
channels go out. Whether it's an email or an SMS, having visibility into that from a reporting perspective is great. We do generate some standard reports so that as you're firing these things out, you can understand what email address is most common, what browser are people using. So when you design things, it's not just designed for Safari, but everyone's using Chrome, the click-through rate and open rates to understand how that varies. And then we also support split testing. So the subject line, the content, or the friendly from name will give you visibility in terms of which of those items is winning based on which metric, the opens and close, the bounces, heck, the IP address location of the individual. When they open the email, if you want to do some regional targeting around this DC area for everyone who opened the email, you've got some flexibility to do so. So not
Yeah.
only do we want you to have the information on the front end to calibrate and figure things out, we want, as you're sending things out, to fine tune those campaigns, whether it's the location of where individuals are, or maybe even the link hotspot report that you have here. If you want to see where people are clicking to figure out, maybe I should put a link there or change my design.
Yep.
Just a ton of things to think through, but the bread and butter and focus that I wanted to make sure you guys walk away with is ensure that you guys have as much information as you can and set yourself up to gather some first party details so that you're working with your customers to send them what they want. Once that's set up, be targeted in your campaigns and messages so that they're receiving the right message at the right time. And then think through your cadences and processes and start with a simple automation to get the items out the door at the right time. Build on it over time as you get feedback, and then constantly look at the end result and make sure that you guys are getting the outcome that you want.
Yeah, so I think, if I were sitting in the audience, I would ask, okay, so wow, that's a lot. And DotDigital does a lot, right? But where do I start? I think the places you start, right, are making one, what information do you have on your clients, right? In B2B, almost every B2B site has some sort of account information. So if you're going to market to your current clients, you start with the account information. And what's great is as you begin to put this through, you're going to actually see, wow, I didn't collect all this information on a particular account. It actually will spur you into thinking about other things and other questions you can ask. But you start with the account. The second thing is you take a look at, okay, who buys from me, right? And you're already doing this in a mass email, but you begin to look at the and try to build out a list of people who are already in your accounts. That's where I would start. And you build out this in a very simple way, right? If you're focusing on customers, right, you start with understanding their behavior and making sure that they're converting on sales and updating them on new products or things that are relevant in the categories that they buy. And on new customers, right, the idea here is less about trying to sell immediately and more about introducing and educating. And by doing that, right, by bringing them and tracking them as to what they're looking at, you will over time develop a profile. That is one of the great things about a sophisticated system DotDigital offers is you can collect and build information over time. You don't have to have it out of the box. On the other hand, you probably also have a bunch of historical data on the accounts you have. What products have they bought? When did they buy it? And you can begin to load up all of that information and let DotDigital system begin to make inferences and some give you some ideas on things that make sense to market with. But the biggest impact things is getting started. If you don't start, you get nothing. If you start and you begin to segment and you begin to communicate to people where they are beyond just a mass email, you will see a marked improvement. And by marked, I mean what we have seen with our clients, right, is that by starting down this road, right, they get 25% better conversion when they're actually working the end of the shopping cart. And I'll throw out one thing that customers always talk about. Well, they load their cart and they leave it there for days because they're still shopping. I would argue, sure, that's true, but have they forgotten something?
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Sorry, I muted myself. New headphones, and if I do something, I don't know I did it. But if they put something in a cart, have they normally bought something in that cart and they didn't include it? Send them an email. Has it sat there for more than 3 days? Right? Send them an email that says, hey, complete this purchase. Send them an opportunity to get a small amount of money off. Because also what happens with our customers is the shopping cart just sits there and sits there. And that isn't making anyone money.
Yeah.
Couple of thoughts.
No, completely agree with the incentivization. Adding in a discount or just making it so that there's a gentle nudge to get them going. Is just the small little thing that you can do to make your life a little bit easier in terms of trying to get something going within the system, so that they actually pull the trigger. Like you don't want to have anything that's sticky or preventing them from actually doing what you guys want.
Right.
John, I liked your example also of including like the sales rep or someone to just answer their questions. Maybe that's why they've been sitting for so long. They have more questions. Rob, I loved your example of maybe they just need that little discount or that push, or literally they were like,
Sure.
oh, I forgot something. Now I do want to buy it. Thanks for reminding me,
Yeah. Or is there an item that went on sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
While it's been sitting on the cart. That's actually a very nice way to do it without necessarily implying every time they leave something in a cart that you're going to give them a discount. But if the price changed and an automated touch point that says, hey, we've changed the price, it's lower, maybe now you should buy, right? So there are a lot of ways to do it. Some B2B like distributors, that's really hard to do. The margins are really thin, but that doesn't mean that you don't find, along the way that a price change has happened, and you should let the customer know and pass it on, because that creates very high loyalty in your customer base.
It shows you're being honest. It shows like
Correct.
you're helpful.
Yep.
Also, you said it earlier, a few cents can make all the difference.
You can.
Yeah, so that's great. Awesome, John. Are you all done with that presentation? Because then we can move into the fireside chat.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we have our last 15 minutes to ensure that everyone's questions are answered and we talk through any other fun ideas.
Someone did
Absolutely.
ask while you were presenting that someone asked if this will be recorded and sent over. Yes, you will get the slides, you will get a recording, and you'll get a follow-up email all tomorrow afternoon. So just keep your eye out for that. And with that, let me share my screen so you can see the questions so you don't forget. Are y'all seeing my screen?
Yeah. And please, people, ask questions. The more interactive this is, the more fun it is for me.
Yeah. Rob's ready to go. He wants to be creative. Send him some good questions.
All right.
To be fair, Rob, you did start answering this. John, if you want to add on, Rob, if you want to add anything else, but what is a simple first step for B2B marketing to kick off their automation journeys? Maybe they just started with DotDigital or they don't have DotDigital. Where would you say they should start?
Yeah, I guess my general thought would be, a welcome nurturing series. Like someone's first signed up, send them a welcome message, try and do a value prop to be clear on, why your product would be a good fit. I don't know if you want to lead with a discount, probably wait for a couple days to get that out the door, but pushing that and then some educational content in terms of how you guys can continue to solve that value prop, case studies of people that have received the outcome that they're looking for. And then maybe just a call to action, just to send us a phone call, speak with our sales rep, book a demo, just enough to get that, flywheel and pipeline going to then kick off the real hefty side of the sales funnel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think start with your customers. You would be very surprised how many of them don't know as much about you as you think they do.
Yeah.
Send them product updates. Send them, we now carry this line. Send them information that are relevant to their category, right?
Hmm.
So if you've got a very broad assortment of like we work with farm equipment companies, for example. So in farm equipment, do they is this a Kubota dealer or is it a case dealer? Update them on, hey, there's new, we've got replacement parts in that are both OEM and are made elsewhere. There's price differences. Just give deep information on the categories they buy. And you know what? Customers don't get surveys enough in B2B. Start out with asking them a few questions about themselves, and you begin to get the ability to populate the information that you're going to want to have in DotDigital. Start with your customers. They're the more forgiving of you, anyways. They want to hear from you, and you can begin to build a very nice set of information. And the other place I would start, right, that makes a ton of sense is using the information you have to do, if you have events, automation is fantastic for running. If you've got a trade show, if you've got something coming up, this is an area where you can use the behavioral feedback to actually understand who's more likely to come see your presentation, go to your booth, whatever.
Yeah. I really like that you guys have been saying this. It kind of goes along what you just said. Like
Okay.
treat treat your B2B like B2C in a way.
Mhm.
Obviously not all the time, but the journey begins. It's all about behavior. It's all about buying, and I like the switch in mindset. Um, I think it'll make you stand out as a company if you think about it like that.
It definitely does.
Fabulous. Well, okay, so we've talked about where to start. And you guys have also mentioned that like some B2B journeys are really long and complex. It could take 6 months, could take a year to buy something. So you've given a few examples, maybe some more. What are some creative ways to keep prospects warm and engaged throughout those silent phases in the sales funnel, marketing funnel?
Well,
Or go,
prospects. No, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, you go ahead.
Oh, all right. Well, look, keeping people warm is really important. And this is where I was saying I think that we're sometimes a little cautious as B2B marketers, right? I think if someone has engaged with you, you should engage highly and then move down to the nurture kinds of things. But creative ways, right,
Hmm.
are if you find a topic that's resonating, right? So I'll use us as an example, right? I sell B2B, and we just had a trade show, and the trade show went really well, and we found this little talk we were giving resonated really well. So what have we done, right? We have thought, okay, well, we were doing demos live, and we were talking about AI first. So what have we done? Everyone who clicked on the pre-emails to drive them there, we're now offering it as a webinar. We're taking that and making it wider. And if people start really clicking and diving and wanting more information, right, we're going to meet them where they are. Right. So is that we're going to send them the video? Is it that we're going to ask them to sign up? Are we going to make an offer? Right. Those are great ways to keep things warm. If you're a product, if you're trying to sell a product and keep people engaged, right? Uh, you know, what about a free sample, right? Oftentimes engineering spec items, right? You want a quality sample anyways. These are things that you would do normally with your sales reps. Put those things online. It's
Hmm.
okay. And then use it to schedule based on interest. Use it to schedule and introduce your sales rep. And you can do it online just like we are, right? things are expensive. Flying is expensive. Do an initial call with your sales rep online, and then schedule, visiting 5 clients in a single area, and having a sales call that way. There are
Hmm.
lots of things you can do to try and differentiate yourself with a high touch, high service model that I think keeps things going. And then if they're not as engaged, don't give up. Remember, we do not live in Europe. It is okay to keep sending emails until somebody opts out. They can continue to be emailed and emailed and emailed until they ask you to stop. It is a different set of laws here,
Yeah.
and while I know a lot of multinationals want to apply, or think they need to live under GDPR, as of yet we do not. So it's okay to keep emailing.
I also do want to say we talk about this in a lot of webinars. I'm no deliverability specialist or anything like that, but getting people to opt out also is good. It's good for your data. It's good for
It
your
is.
email lists. So even if someone does, like, don't take that as a negative. Yeah, you didn't get that sale, but they could always come back. But you're keeping your lists healthy. And those are the people that are engaged when they're not opted out. So
Well, that's actually a great point, right? It is a negative to keep delivering to places that are now gone. So make sure your list is healthy, right?
mhm.
Make sure your deliverability is high. Make sure you're communicating with people who actually exist and or still at the same company, right?
Yep.
And work through those things. And keeping them warm, right, is about creative, make offers on education, send out the products, but also if I encourage you to, get your engineering teams exposed. People want to learn about product development. They want to understand, what makes your product different. And very short videos do
Mhm.
really, really well in email.
Yep.
Yeah, we were just discussing that in one of our marketing emails or marketing
Yeah.
meetings. Like maybe we
Yeah.
start putting that in genuinely. So,
Yeah. And B2B companies don't typically do it, right? But I just found this cool AI product. I haven't tested it, so I'm not going to share the name, but this cool AI product that what it does is you can give it a photo or two of the product you have, and it'll turn it into a short 30-second describer video, right?
hmm.
So you kind of put in some text, it
Hmm.
puts in a really pretty decent AI voice, it puts in a video, and you can send those out, and they're like made immediately. You can do it across your products, and you can take flat, boring stuff and turn it into a 20-second video and send it out, and it's much more interactive. And guess what? You can measure whether they clicked and
Hmm.
whether they're interested. And
Yep.
that's where you're building all of this, right? I think, the additional thing is how do you keep them engaged throughout? Well, you learn about the customer and you're building all this great stuff behind them, but you can give them what they're interested in, right? As
Hmm.
opposed to guessing. Guessing is a bad strategy. I've
Yeah.
done plenty of it. I know it's a bad strategy.
No, perfect. Okay, I want to dive into one more question because we have about 4 minutes left, and I
Oh
feel like
yeah, yeah.
this is what's on everyone's mind, AI. Um, do you could you guys share, wait, let me change the slide, so sorry. Could you share one practical example of AI or maybe segmentation, because that's also automation, making a measurable impact for a B2B brand that you've worked with?
Yes.
Share it with us,
Sorry,
Rob.
that was terrible.
Just end
Yes.
it there. Webinar over.
Yeah. No. Look, AI is pervasive. And so, we work in with a number of distributors, and oftentimes distributors will get their descriptions from the manufacturer, and they are verbatim. So guess what goes out in their emails, what goes on their website? It is the exact same description as every other distributor and the manufacturer. So what do they have? It's boring. It does no SEO value whatsoever. It doesn't differentiate anything about you. So using AI to do what's called enrichment, right?
Hmm.
Um, in your field. It can be as simple as ChatGPT, but there are of course better systems where it'll handle as you upload products, it'll go through and handle that. And you can so one of the demos we did is, take descriptions and turn it into superhero language just to be
Hmm.
silly. Right. And so you've got these products, and they're, talking about how Batman would use it and, kapow. It gets fun. But what it is a demonstration that you can differentiate using it. And then if you've got differentiated stuff, you follow that in with how you're marketing, how your outbound is. Suddenly it sounds different. It has more information. It's a better SEO output. And when you're sending it out to clients, you look and sound different, even though it's a cluttered, a lot of B2B stuff is a very cluttered, simple stuff. I love that kind of business working with them. It could be a valve. How exciting is that? Well, you can make it interesting and you can give a lot more technical detail. You can do a lot of things like that. That's one example.
Yeah.
Second one, I think, is just what John was showing, right? Which is being able to make inferences on what are people doing inside the website. Um, that will help you in crafting, better converting emails and messaging to be able to get them to come back to your site and be able to buy something. And then the third one that I can right immediately say is, we, when using DotDigital, will combine it with you saw the tremendous input, intelligence, right, that DotDigital provides on mapping your site and everything. We have some tools we hook up, right, that puts kind of an AI agent over all of that, that takes your Google Analytics, takes everything you're learning about your website, and we can make suggestions on where are the pain points in the website that people can't actually navigate through.
Hmm.
Now that's great. You can go back and change it. But if you combine it with, okay, we know when this happens, let's hit a trigger out of DotDigital, send an email that says, oops, our bad, or hey, it looks like we don't have what you're looking for, but if you're looking for something close, right, with your search AI,
Hmm.
it might be these things, and we'll give you a discount of 5% off because we didn't have exactly what you're looking for,
Yeah.
right?
Also,
Those are
sorry,
just quick
love the
ideas.
oops our bad email. Sorry, emails get a lot of engagement. I don't know if it was
They
you I was
do.
talking to earlier or another marketer at Dot Digital, but a sorry email gets tons of engagement.
It does. It just recognized, hey, look, something happened, whatever it is,
Hmm.
hopefully not 404 errors, but, 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 most often, right, one of the biggest problems in B2B search is what we call a null search error. I can't find it. I don't know it. And if all you do is say, I don't have it, you've likely lost that customer. So providing alternatives, sending an email, saying we'll order it for you. We're sorry it's out, or out of stock is another
Hmm.
good one, right? Hey, sign up and I'll notify you as soon as this is back in stock. Those are things you can do. And
Yeah.
I've said a lot. So John, do you want to add anything? Do you guys have more questions?
Yeah, for the AI question, AI is not going to replace marketers anytime soon. Like it's still a necessary role, but it does make their life a little bit easier. We want the system to take away some of the more tedious tasks, whether that's
Yeah.
split testing different subject lines and having AI generate 10 different ones and figure out which one's the better one to use going forward,
Hmm.
bucketing people. That's kind of where our customers really see those wins. It's getting a marginal incremental, increase in open rates, clicks, and revenue, just taking things off their plate as well. That's really where AI is shined within DotDigital.
Well, John, that's a great point because I have often struggled with just coming up two for an A/B test,
Yeah,
let alone ABCD test.
yeah.